I pull on the steering wheel and I pull the steering wheel off.
No.
And what speed are you going at?
As fast as I possibly can.
You
I mean,
literally pull the steering wheel.
150 miles an hour.
Is
on
there
this
not a
particular level.
latch, a release?
There is, but my dumbass
You've pulled
broke
it.
the number one rule, and I didn't check my steering wheel when I got in the
So
car.
it hadn't
and drove off
fully
there.
like
So you hadn't
clicked
clicked
into
it
place.
in, clicked into place.
And what happened then?
Well,
Welcome to Before the Lights. If you're new here, we're a team of health professionals based in London who train people from all over the creative world to get ready for TV, film, even live shows, but most importantly, for everyday life. I'm Dave Hasty.
I'm George Ashwell.
I'm Georgia Canavan.
And I'm Josh Betteridge.
We've been lucky enough to build a pretty special group of members here at the club, so we thought it would be nice for other people to get to know some of them as well as we do.
I was like, oh, I need to start going to the gym. So I literally got out my laptop, and was like, PT's for actors.
Welcome to Before the Lights podcast, guys. I'm Greg James. With me over here is Dangerous Dave, and here is Evil George. And today we're talking grind set.
Grind set.
It's not about mindset, guys. It's about grind set.
It was the very first time I met you when you came in and you actually had to run off and be sick in the toilet.
You feel quite vulnerable when you're kind of lying on your back with your legs up in the air because you feel sick, just breathing, and I'm like, this never happens. I'm so sorry.
So sit back, only do some exercise if you want to, and maybe even learn something about how to look after yourself. Welcome back to the Before the Lights podcast.
Hello.
Today I'm joined by George again.
I am here, yes.
What have you been up to? How's your morning?
Same, seeing clients.
One day he'll
Dave,
say
yeah.
something
So I
different.
was, I thought about it today, and I was like, Dave's going to ask me how I've been again, and I'm going to go, I don't know. Very
I'm
good.
fine.
I'm fine.
I'm good.
The gym is good. I've trained people. It's fun.
We'll pull back the curtain and reveal
Yes.
who it is today. So today's guest, a little different from our usual, and we're doing something we've only done once before, where we're going to step into the world of sport, and specifically American sport. And we're very pleased to welcome onto the show NASCAR legend Jimmie Johnson.
Yeah.
Welcome, boys. Thank you.
NASCAR
Thank you.
legend.
Thank you for being here.
How do you like being called a legend?
I don't know. Every when I hear it, it's
You must get it quite a lot though.
it's happened more now that I'm older, and
Yeah.
so I know it's intended as a compliment, but then I think, well, it's just because I'm old. But then it's like, no, that's not it.
Should we redo it? We'll go
No, but
old NASCAR driver.
Yeah, old NASCAR
Jimmie,
driver.
Jimmie Johnson.
Or you
Honesty
could,
first.
or you could do like the golf version where you just reel off all of their accomplishments just before they do something. It's like, here's a guy about
Is
to
that
do
what they
something.
do when they hit the ball?
Yeah,
The
like
first
before
tee
the
box.
first tee,
Yeah.
it's like every time Jimmy goes to race, it'd be like 7-time NASCAR World Series champion,
Yeah.
Jim, and you'd be like, okay, great, cheers for building
they-
up the pressure.
When they announce your name when you're in the helmet and everything like that, can you hear all that stuff? Because they must do that at the stadium, right?
They do, but they do it maybe an hour to 45 minutes before
Yeah.
the
Is it like
engines
a
fire.
parade first?
Yeah, they have opening ceremonies, and so on the front stretch of the racetrack, they bring out a couple semi-trailers. Oftentimes, they have a current musician play. The fans gather. They let them out of the grandstands down onto the grass area and kind of keep them confined to a certain area. And then we have driver introductions, and then we jump in a pickup truck and do a lap around for the parade. And then they put everyone back in the stands and
All the boring stuff
Fire
that
the
you're like,
engines.
just let me race. the
just want
car,
to race.
please.
Yeah.
Why
Something
do I
I'd
have
written
to do
down here
this?
was that you'll have to forgive us throughout the episode for our lack of knowledge when it comes to your sport, which
Yes.
you could probably tell already. The questions that
It's
we've already
great
started asking. But
I
for-
don't have to be right today, so it's
That's
perfect.
Yeah,
true. Very
perfect.
good point.
I was going to say, for the benefit of our listeners who, I guess a lot of them are in the UK. We get people all over the place, but maybe they haven't watched NASCAR before, so they might be more kind of F1 fans, like European racing, that kind of stuff. Can you give them a little synopsis of what is different and what's so special about NASCAR in particular?
Yeah, certainly. So at the end of the day, it's still motorsports. And I guess the American way, the need to create entertainment is kind of at the core of most American sports, and trying to figure out how to, I guess, monetize ultimately and have as many fans engaged and involved. And NASCAR has definitely taken a page from that. They just instinctively tried to create a very competitive series with a lot of vehicles on track, and also a sport that will allow people to come in. Recently, they have started a charter system, which is like a franchise model. Formula One's limited on the number of cars that they have. They also now have a cost cap, but have always really pushed engineering and wanted that to be the showcase of it. NASCAR has been different. Anyone can come and play. Even with our charter system, there's still always 4 open spots for new teams and drivers to come along and compete. And then they try to really regulate so that the cars are as equal as possible, and it really comes down to the people working on the cars, engineering the cars, and driving the cars to make them go fast and win.
Because in Formula One, I guess it's like each car is kind of designed from the ground up by the team, whereas there's an element you're saying like you partner with a manufacturer, is it, and like you get that car, but it's obviously not. It's not the car you'd see driving around on the road, or do they actually resemble? What
in the old days,
in theory, it could be.
Yeah, in the old days, there was a philosophy that you win on Sunday, sell on Monday, and that really helped NASCAR through its infancy and really helped it build the success that it has today. And you had all the manufacturers involved. And I own a NASCAR team called Legacy Motor Club, and I've won 7, and then there's 2 others, Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. And Richard Petty is 88 years old and part of Legacy Motor Club. And it's wild to hear his stories that when he was a kid growing up, his father raced, and they would jump in the car, drive to the racetrack.
The actual one he was racing?
Car. The whole family piled in, and the dog. Pull into the infield, throw out a jack, a couple spare tires. Dad would race. They'd get back in the car and drive home.
That's crazy.
So that's how it started.
Yeah.
But the difference is now, I think both series, if you look at NASCAR and Formula One, they're trying to learn from each other. Mm-hmm. Formula One is so beautiful, and the technology and what they create and engineer is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
NASCAR, we've had different generations of that, but again, we have 40 cars in the field, and they're trying to keep a cost mindset in play. And we now have a vehicle that has been, it's kind of a common car across the field and all manufacturers. And so the difference then becomes the engine that goes in and the skin that goes over the top. Mm-hmm. So all 40 cars on track have the same car. Mm-hmm. We can put different settings on it, and then it's really back to the driver and strategy and some other elements.
Wow, super interesting stuff.
So interesting.
The thing that occurred to me then when you were, and I don't know, it never popped into my mind before. It's probably the only form of motor racing where if you're sat in the stand, you can see the whole thing.
Yes.
Whereas I've not been to see any racing, but
yeah.
with Nick Holt took me once to the MotoGP.
Yeah.
And you see
a corner.
3 seconds.
Yeah.
And they're like, zoom, 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 and then that's it. Then you can hear it and see it on the screens, but with NASCAR, you're there and you see everything, right? You kind of...
There's 38 races in a season, and this year it's 38 races in 39 weeks. And so the teams, it's tough. Let's see, 36 races are for championship points. Mm-hmm. And then of the 36 races, 6 or 7 of them are on a road course. And so the rest are ovals. And most ovals, you can see it in its entirety.
So there are road courses.
There are.
Okay. And that obviously is a completely different type of driving then.
It is.
How is that? Because I can't think of any other sport where you go from, you have kind of the, let's say, quote unquote, standard way of doing it and competing, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, this is what you're doing now.
It's like cycling when they're just like random gravel.
Yeah, I suppose they make them ride over the cobbles.
Why are you riding on that now?
But even there, though, you've got like, if you do a time trial or you're a mountain stage, you're still, it's the same way you've got to think about to a certain extent. Whereas with that, it's like you've gone from an oval in a stadium environment to a completely different world.
It's
that
different
must be
discipline.
Really hard.
It is. And when I retired from full-time NASCAR in 2020. I went IndyCar racing in 21 and 22. So where I grew up in Southern California, I wanted all of my heroes were Formula drivers, and I didn't know much about NASCAR at all. And so at 46, I went into IndyCar as a rookie, and it was wild because the other rookies in the rookie class, their fathers were as old as I, and in one instance was younger than me. So I was like, wow, this is interesting. But the discipline has changed, and I guess where I was going with this, when I first started in the sport, we would have road course ringers come in. So IndyCar drivers or Formula One drivers, people that really specialize in that in sports car racing would come in, take the trophy, and leave.
To get the constructor championship.
Yes, or just win for a team, and a team would field another car because you have those
just
open
like
slots.
You just put another car
on the
road
and sell a big sponsorship for it and go win with a marquee road course racer. And now when they send in the road course specialists, they run 10th to 15th at best.
Really?
So
Everyone
our,
else has kind of
the
got a hang of
drivers
it a
really
bit
have
better.
figured it out, and the teams have. We've had Kimi Räikkönen come and run a couple of times.
Really?
So it's been nice to see different guys come and give it a shot.
For us and for our listeners, I'll give you like some credit, which I'm sure is something you don't want to happen, but I'm going to do it anyway. So
He doesn't mind listening
you
to
win
it.
7 NASCAR Cup championships, which is the most anyone's ever won. You've got the 2 other drivers that have managed to do it, but no one's gone more than that,
Correct.
which in itself is amazing. You did 5 of those back to back.
We did.
Which you're the only person that's done that,
Yeah.
which is wild, isn't it?
I don't know how that happened. I still
Consistency.
look back on that.
Because especially
stat,
when
can't
you're
believe it.
talking about being just then within a fraction of a second and
Yeah.
the amount of variables and the amount of concentration it takes to do that in a season, let alone over 5 consecutive seasons.
Yeah.
Also, from what I understand of the sport, it's not a sport where you have that kind of, because there's so many cars.
Right.
Like some of the best drivers will never win a world championship, but they'll be known as one of the like the most wins or whatever, or like some of the most wins, and they'll be known as like legends, even though they've never won a world championship. But to win the world championship, which is like Americanized version of the sport, you have a playoff, right?
Yep.
So you have like the normal season, and then you go into a playoff like NFL, NBA, that kind of thing. So it's like you work all this time to then get put into the final competition, and then you have to win that competition as well. So it's like it seems like an impossible task, but then to do it 5 times in a row is pretty insane.
Yeah.
I still can't believe it
Still in
happened. It was
Yeah.
wild. And in a few of those years, and season's so long, you mentioned the variables, it just didn't seem like it was going to happen. And we'd figure out a way. I mean, it's just incredible. I had such a great team. I drove for the best team at Hendrick Motorsports. And then our group of guys was very fortunate to be a 4th car that was added to that organization. And we had a group of young guys that all had something to prove. I didn't step into an existing team and whatever energy or vibe was there, like we created it. And there was so much ownership in it. And man, we did so much in a short period of time. It
In
was
your
incredible.
career then, did you work with the same mechanics, the same pit crew kind of stuff? Was there a continuity with that in that winning those 5 years of success? Was there
Yeah,
a lot
for
of the
me,
same people?
my whole upbringing, I had very few team owners that I drove for, had long-standing relationships with all of them. Crew members would follow me up through the ranks. I was found by the head of Chevrolet Racing when I was 15, and they put me under a contract that I drove for until I was 45.
Wow.
So everything in my life has really been these long relationships that have served me well, and that's the environment I've thrived in. And then when I got to the Cup Series, I drove for Hendrick Motorsports for 21 years, and that core group of people, we stayed together really through all of it, but there's one man that really led the team for all that. We were together 17 of my 19 full-time years, and he's like I guess I have 2 younger brothers. He's like a 4th or 3rd brother to me, and unfortunately, we got to a point where we spent more time fighting, and our team owner had to say, all right, enough of you guys, I'm going to have to separate you.
Yeah.
I wish we could have made it those final 2 years together before I moved on to IndyCar, but people and consistency has been the bottom line for my success.
Yeah. One thing I found really interesting when I was kind of looking into, because I say it a lot when people come onto the podcast, it's because we get to know you guys in such a natural way and spend time with you in the gym and in the space in Before the Lights. It's that we don't have to read about people and kind of do tons of research, but always before we record, I'll do a little bit. And one thing I found quite interesting was that the 6th and 7th titles that you got were like considerable amounts of time after that first 5, and the ability to actually go through that massively successful period and then have it end. And in sport, it's always quite abrupt, isn't it? Because you either win or you don't, and that's it.
Right.
And then to come back from that is quite impressive. I think that's quite interesting. Is there things that you can look back on and be like, you were trying to achieve and you knew that you'd stop doing, or is it just, I'm going to keep doing what I've always done and I know that it's still going to be good enough to get me to where I wanted to be?
We were really good at evaluating ourselves every winter and trying to reinvent ourselves, and that was something that I think our group did really well. What's really interesting through all of that is the 5 in a row upset the fan base and upset NASCAR, and so they changed the way you win the championship. So we figured out that system and won 5 in a row. then they rewrote the championship, regulations
Is
and,
that
and changed the game.
because of what you touched on earlier, like it's they're wanting to excite people, they want to generate revenue, all those things. You need it to be fresh, don't you?
Yes.
You need kind of jeopardy to a certain
Yes.
extent, don't you?
In our sport, there's so many races. The races are so long. They kept trying to introduce new twists and turns to make it interesting. And NASCAR listens to their fan base and tries to be proactive and make some various calls. So people weren't happy that the same champion had 5 in a row, and so they make a change. They also look at new technology for the cars and certainly new safety. And during my 19 full-time seasons of driving, there were 3 different generations of cars that I drove. And so that was another element that kind of led to some of those gaps between our 5th championship, 6th, and then 7th.
Yeah.
We had the format changing and then new generations of cars.
I'm quite interested to see, like, 7 is this kind of holy grail in a way.
Yeah.
Was that something that you wanted to kind of, a cap
course.
that you wanted to be able to put on? You were kind of thinking, I'm not stopping until I get to that.
2016 was probably the most fun I had winning a championship. It was incredible. The team, everything was working great. Amazing season. Wait, I'm sorry. That would be 2013. 2013 was the amazing fun season. 2016, what happened between 13 and 16 was a slow decay in our performance and also this decay in the relationship between myself and the guy I spoke about earlier. My other brother, his name's Chad Knaus. Super close still today, all those things, but our working relationship just started to be fatigued.
Yeah.
We ended up winning the championship in 17, and I stayed on until 20, but the grind and the time that we spent together, the unfortunate reality that we didn't mature in our relationship, and he would still coach me up as if I was the rookie kid and I didn't want to hear that anymore, and I would talk to him in a way that he didn't want to hear anymore.
Yeah.
That we just fought like cats and dogs. And so I tried to chase 8. I did for a while, but this fatigue, the grind, I had a crew chief, which we call our head coach a crew chief. I had a swap that didn't last very long. I had another swap, and this was a young engineer that I had won, I think, 3 or 4 championships with and really, really believed in. And we got the team up and running, was starting to be competitive again, and the fire in my heart for that sport and for the commitment required went out.
Yeah.
And I still had time left on the clock and a standing offer with my team owner and sponsor to stay, but I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And decided to make
But
2020 my last year.
And that being said, it's like you often hear sports people talk about, it's very rare that someone can exit their sport on their own terms.
Yes.
Which it sounds like you managed to achieve.
I did.
Which very few people do, don't they? It's often you
Obviously
stop getting picked
chasing
or
something.
you
Yeah.
get injured or whatever it is. But it must be an amazing feeling to be able
Very
to do
fortunate to call my shot there. But then I complicated things and went full-time IndyCar racing for 2 seasons. So it's like I just wanted something new. But the second year in IndyCar, it started to feel like work again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was my last full-time year.
It's like Michael Jordan going to play baseball.
Yeah.
It's good.
Good fun,
I mean,
though.
why not?
Such
Yeah.
a different discipline.
Yeah.
Driving a car that creates downforce, which is a formula-style car, versus a NASCAR vehicle that has just mechanical grip.
that. Mm-hmm.
Your approach and technique are just polar opposites.
Yeah.
And it was fun to go through that discipline.
That must be really hard having to adjust to that. Would you say there's things that, like, you've put yourself in a really unfamiliar environment in that sense, which I'm a big believer in, that people should seek out those moments
Yeah.
of being uncomfortable, because I think you learn so much about whatever it is you're trying to do. Like, we obviously deal with a lot of actors and musicians who are on stage and on camera, and by nature that is exposing and uncomfortable. And they do it day in, day out for a living, but there's a lot of people who maybe don't have that opportunity to feel that, but there's ways you can achieve it. But I mean, you've done it in such a, first of all, dangerous way. Like,
Definitely.
you were explaining to me in the gym earlier that all the things you would have as like a natural reaction were the opposite of what you then had to do.
Yeah.
So it's such a, you must have learnt a hell of a lot then in
I
order
did.
to, like, it just self-control and discipline and all that kind of stuff must be.
Yeah, and
Super
you learn
important.
from mistakes too. Yeah, as I said in the gym earlier today, as I made the transition to formula cars, and all of my instinctive reactions to oh shit moments were now wrong. Like I spent a lifetime of building fast hands and a certain reaction to little signs the car would give me.
Yeah.
And I knew how to get myself out of trouble. And now my instinctive reaction got me into more trouble as I was in a Formula car.
Yeah.
And it's due to the fact that a Formula car, the more airspeed over the car, the more suction it has to the road. And it's not that case with a stock car. You just have a certain amount of mechanical grip, and there are certain cues that tell you to slow down, where in an Indy car and you feel the car move around, you're actually going too slow. You need to pick up the pace. So 9 times out of 10, when the car is misbehaving, you just need to go faster.
Yeah, put your
That's
foot
a
down.
tough thing to go through.
That must be like super counterintuitive.
Yeah.
They're thinking like, oh shit, what's gonna happen?
But then when I would trust it and believe it, I mean, I literally would laugh and scream in the helmet while I'm driving. I'm like, that was badass. I can't believe it's stuck.
That's so
It's
cool.
awesome.
I think that brings us nicely to, I think a lot of people will be listening to this thinking, how and why has a NASCAR driver ended up in a gym that is mostly frequented by actors and musicians and people like that?
People who wish they were NASCAR drivers.
People that want to be racing
People that play
drivers.
NASCAR drivers in films.
Which we've actually, one of our clients was involved in a film, a Gran Turismo film, which we talked a little bit before. Where
Yeah, it's so cool.
he played a kid that was really good at sim racing on a PlayStation and qualifies and ends up getting selected. And it's a true story, isn't it? And you actually know someone.
I do. I've seen that in the
Who-
NASCAR space.
Yeah, so it's you can be a racing driver in a bedroom and
You
be good
can.
enough and make it.
He was a
onto a
cute
track.
You
little
have to
kid
be really
trick-or-treating.
good. Don't waste your life on video games. Go outside as well.
But how do you know? How do you know if you don't
That's
waste your
very
life on
true.
video games?
You
Not
have
a
to waste
waste
your
if
life.
he's made
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Who's to
I
say
was
it's a
saying
waste?
before, this little kid that was trick-or-treating in my neighborhood, his parents, he'd come to our house and sign his little pillow sack and give him candy. And his parents like, oh gosh, he's just always in the basement on that game. And he's now driving Jeff Gordon's fame number 24 in
That's
NASCAR. Like, it
insane.
worked.
That is so
It's
crazy.
wild.
It'd be interesting to see how many more people like that come through now, because I'm assuming you've driven those kind of simulator cars. They must be super realistic at this stage.
They are. Specifically in NASCAR, they've done away with all of our additional on-track testing, we call it, or practice sessions. The only way that we can advance our vehicles and have our drivers feel that is by driving the simulators.
That's insane.
And
So really, it's down to how good the technology is of the guys that build the simulators.
It is. It's
as
only
to
as
how
good
they
as your
can
data.
match it.
Shall we install one here so you can be sharp when you go back for the next
thankfully,
race?
I'm not driving that often and have to worry about it, because my generation of driver, that's not what we're good at.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
really impressive to watch kids come along now that know the virtual world and then can apply that to reality. It's just, they're two different worlds.
Very cool.
So what brought you here then? That was the question
the
I was
question.
getting
That was
around
the
to
question,
asking, and
yeah.
then
We got
distracted myself
Yeah.
with another question.
So through the journey of racing, my wife and I just always wanted to live abroad. And so we moved over in, I guess, August of 23 for an adventure year, and it's turned into 2. With my newfound control and majority ownership of the race team, I've been in the States quite a bit and need to go back full time here in the summer once the kids pop out of school, and we'll put them back in school in the States. Not going away, though. You guys are going to have to deal with me. We're going to find a flat to maintain and stay here.
Awesome.
London has provided so much for us personally and professionally.
Yeah.
And your other sports interview, Chase Utley,
Yes.
we live near each other, and our kids go to the same school.
Which is where you met.
Was where we
I
met. yeah.
just assumed, because you've got 2 guys who have excelled in their sports, pretty much the same age. I was like, you guys must have known each other in America then. And they're like, no, we met like at school pickup.
School
Yeah,
pickup,
yeah.
totally. Yeah, exactly, which is crazy.
Did you know who Chase was, or Chase know who you were?
I knew who he
Previ-
was,
you- yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
He's a badass.
That's hilarious, because you were the only, Chase probably went to that school, although it is an American school, but Chase or you probably went to that school a bunch of times and walked through the streets of Notting Hill or whatever, and no one bats an eyelid at you. You're just like a normal dude, and then you turn up to an American school and everyone's like, oh, that's so-and-so, and you're like, fuck, this is the reason I got out of America.
Were you also
And
like, shit, I'm not the only sports dad?
yeah, yeah.
You're like, that's my thing.
I saw him at the school, and I'm like, holy shit, Chase Utley's here. And then it's not a week or 2 later, Chase's wife, Jed, and my wife, Shani, they meet and become fast friends. And it's wild how, our spouses are like, I think our husbands would play well together. Let's put them together. So
You
off
literally
we
got
to
sent on
dinner.
a play date to the gym.
Yeah.
They're like, go there, see how it goes, have a nice time.
That's exactly right.
So then now, like, we've welcomed you into our sort of family, I suppose. Yourself and Chase train together quite frequently,
We do.
and I like training when you guys are in the gym because you can see all the normal people, the non-athletes. Literally, people just see like,
It's definitely
what
a
are those guys doing?
Yeah. It's definitely a different mindset. These two guys have the kind of just dig deep sort of mentality, which most people don't need or want or have, like, but it's like it's so innate in you two where you're like, I have to train hard. What's next? And whereas most people are like trying to get away with shit constantly, whereas you two are like, come on, tell me what to do, and I'm like, oh shit, you're ready for the next thing.
Well, that was literally
true.
earlier when Jimmy went, oh, we're finished. I thought there was more, and I was like, we can do more. Like, added more in
You
at the
wanna
end.
do more?
He was just like, more, please. I was like, okay.
And now that the fitness is coming along, I know I can take. a
Yeah,
little
we
more.
were
It's great.
saying
It's
like
definitely
you
coming
can
back.
see it, and it happened with Chase as well, because obviously you perform at a certain level, and you got to train in a certain way for that. You're fit for purpose, aren't you, in your
Yeah.
sport? And then when you start doing a bit more, we broaden it, I suppose, a little bit and make it a bit more general, focus on the things that you might not have done previously. And I think that can be an eye opener for people when they first exit a sport, probably to go from doing something where you probably had conditioning sessions and things that you've been doing for years, and you knew what you needed to be capable of doing. Whereas there's things that happen in the gym here where all of a sudden you're like out of the comfort zone.
Without a doubt.
so to
And it's
speak.
been so great to have that full body kind of awareness. And to your point, there were certain things that I knew were strong and I would lean into, and cardio's been a big part of my life. And to really reduce the cardio and focus more on functional kind of weightlifting and all the elements you guys have brought in. I'm watching my physique change, and it's cool to see that because I've always been focused about kind of power to weight and spent a lot of time cycling and running and did a lot of triathlon. And the lighter you are in the car, granted the vehicle needs to weigh a certain amount, but the team can then choose where they put the weight, and that helps you with performance in the car. And so I mean I raced in my peak, I was down in the low 150s, and now I'm at like 165 with some good mass, a good 165, which is awesome to see.
Yeah. And
I mean, when we first started talking, it fascinated me that I presumed you'd have like a intense training regimen where you've got that like thing tied around your head and you're working on like neck strength and you're doing these like crazy postural exercises. And I was like, what have you been doing? He's like, I just do like 4 hours on a bike 5 times a week. And I was like, what? You're just an endurance athlete mainly,
That's really
and the
what it
strength
was.
came from racing. And you were like, my body and my strength developed purely by doing the thing that I was training for.
Yeah, we're in the cars so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
You just have that fitness. So
Yeah.
a lot of it was recovery, and the pool was great for recovery and stretching things out, and just get on the bike and pedal.
were you measuring like certain markers then when you're driving, like in terms of heart rate and temperature and all those kinds of things?
Yeah, definitely. I always wore a heart rate monitor. I would always, with my monitor, I'd have a cabin temp of the car.
So what
I
kind of
had those
temperatures are
things.
you getting up to in there?
It's so freaking hot.
Because is the engine in front or behind you?
In front.
And you're sat basically right there next to it.
Yes. And NASCAR works hard to keep expenses down, so very few composite material on the cars. So everything we have is steel, which is a great conductor of heat.
Yes.
So you have the engine in front of you, the radiator in front of you, the transmission is next to you, the exhaust pipes run under your seat and shoot out out the side of the car.
Seat warmers,
Which-
nice.
Themselves are just absolutely piping
yeah.
hot.
Right behind you is the oil tank, which holds 5 gallons of 260-degree oil, and the oil lines get routed right down the door next
It
to
sounds
the
like
driver.
they're deliberately trying to make it uncomfortable.
It is.
So when Dave asked if
so
you wanted the
hot.
aircon on earlier, you were like, I'm good. I
part
think
of
I'll
it,
be
man.
all right in here. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're no joke, and TV does it in the summer months. They'll put a thermostat inside the car. It's 140 F in the car.
Wait, what's
And
that
races
in-
are
what's that
4
in
hours in,
Celsius?
like-
140 is like 45, 50 degrees.
hot.
Very hot.
It's like being in a sauna,
Yeah.
200 mile an hour sauna.
Or, yeah, more. I mean, even on a winter's day, it's still 100
Yeah,
degrees.
yeah. Still
in-
30
inside.
odd. That's
Yeah,
crazy. 60 degrees Celsius. That is insane.
That's too much, really, isn't it?
And any
Yeah, it'd be
air
nice
that
and
they let
cool. I want
direct
the
in the
aircon on.
car slows down the car.
So you have windows. You have those tiny little.
The right side window is a piece of
Oh
plexiglass
yeah, piece of
and it's
yes.
covered
Yeah.
for safety reasons. And then the left side, any air that comes in adds resistance to the car. So the teams are very smart with how they put the window net.
Mm-hmm.
And so NASCAR has mandated 2 air openings so you have these little 3-inch diameter
They have to be
holes that have to be there, have to be open to not cook the driver.
Yeah.
But it's still not much.
The bare minimum.
Yeah.
Is the other side for safety reasons, for if you crash, that's the wall you'd hit, or is it people pass you on that side more frequently?
It's more from an aerodynamic standpoint. When a race car is going straight, it's designed to create downforce. As it turns sideways, especially in a stock car, and if you have air that can pass through the 2 windows, it creates a high pressure area in the cabin and makes the vehicle light. So the vehicles pick up
Gonna
off the
take off.
ground and try to fly.
And that happens sometimes
And then
anyway.
certainly when they're backwards,
Yeah.
they create lift. And so you have those 2 properties.
Yeah.
That's why you see NASCAR vehicles tumbling around.
Yeah.
And then, so like you kind
Scary.
of touched on there, where you drift the car, you're always sort of turning in hard in one direction. And I noticed when we first started training, I think we spoke about it a little bit in the gym, there were certain movements where the sides of your body would react like that. So we were doing chin-ups one day,
Yeah.
and you could see like I guess you're kind of pulling down a little bit with your body, are you? Or trying to stay neutral, but you're turning a little bit towards the left. So that right side's going to hitch up slightly. You could see that with Jimmie's chin-ups,
Yeah.
like perfectly capable of doing
20
them.
years of
But you could see that right shoulder blade would just
Just
start
ever
to
so
go.
slightly.
Strength on my right
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
Even in the car, I was right arm dominant. I'm right-handed, use my right leg. And everything there is so much more developed.
Yeah, it's like
hilarious.
it's switched on. You could see it's like his brain's gone, I've got this. And it starts to like, when we're doing movements like you touched on there, which are more full body, we're trying to like build you as like a fit human rather than specifically a racing driver. It's noticing those things that we then adjust for. And I think you see it in other athletes, like tennis players, for example, end up being really developed on one side
Oh, I
as
bet.
opposed to the other.
For the forehand.
And in a racing driver, you wouldn't see it because you got these big suits on and you kind of can't.
Yeah.
You're not exposing parts of the body, are you?
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
never
Yeah.
actually notice it.
I would say that Formula One, rally, IndyCar, NASCAR is unique in that respect where we have a lot of ovals going in one direction. The other drivers are much more, I think, symmetric with build and discipline as a result.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess that's where your point with the neck strength training,
Yeah.
resisting G-force, you didn't have to do much
Those
of that
Formula
stuff.
cars, I mean, you hit the brakes and how fast they stop. It's like 6 or 7 Gs instantly when you hit the brake pedal. I mean, you do that for 15, 20 minutes, your neck is just a noodle. Like
Yeah.
it's
Did you-
incredible.
So you drove the McLaren car.
I did in
And
2018.
how many laps have you done in that?
I got a full day in it, which was nice. They gave me a proper test. Liberty Media just bought F1, and there was a push to get a U.S. driver.
Were you thinking about maybe I'll give it a go?
Wow. And thankfully Zach Brown from McLaren is a friend from the States, and I was like, well, let's take a look. And so we brought over a NASCAR vehicle for Fernando to drive. It was his last year at McLaren, and we thought he was retiring. So he bombed around in my Cup car, and I got to drive his F1 car.
Can
Fun
those
day.
two cars race on a track? Or would that be completely
It wouldn't be a fair
impossible?
fight.
It would just be, the F1 car would just be gone. Like, they're just
Gone.
not set up in the right
Gone.
way.
Yeah, top speed is very similar between the two cars, but braking ability and cornering are
Yeah.
just
Crazy.
totally different worlds.
So in a straight line, it would be kind of like you'd be in a similar position, but
Yeah.
then as soon as those corners come in, that car
Fernando
is
jumped
completely-
out. He's like, "Am I supposed to spin the tires in every gear?" I'm like, "Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more power than there is grip. That's NASCAR.
That's it.
Big engines. They cars shake you as they go by, but no grip. So it's like driving on a dirt road the whole time." and
that's the
probably the
skill,
best
right?
example at Bahrain, in the NASCAR vehicle, the braking markers tell you how the distance to the apex of the corner, and they had it set up for Formula One. As we're there in a Formula One car, so they had the 300 boards out. So 300 feet to the apex. I went out and warmed the NASCAR vehicle up, and I came in, and Fernando's like, "All right, we're the breaking point." So I'm walking through it, and I'm giving him physical references. He's like, "Wait a second, you're not to the 300 board?" I'm like, "Oh no,
Nowhere near.
not even close."
Yeah.
So
That's
we have a good laugh
crazy.
about that, and I'm like, "Okay, so where is the board for the F1 car?" And he goes, "Well, you're gonna go past the 3, past the 2, and past the 1, and at about the 50, that's where you'll
Start
stop."
slamming on the
Wow.
brakes.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Sure as shit.
So physically, did
that's
you
like a
literally
game of
get out of that
chicken.
car feeling like, oh my God?
My neck was crushed. I would say my CPU, my brain, and the pace in which stuff was coming at me was a totally different element as well, and just mentally just gone.
Yeah. Trying to literally just absorb all the
Compute
information.
Yeah,
everything.
there's just
And I
so
suppose
much coming at you.
And also, everything you've done in NASCAR is now automatic in a way. Like, you're
Right.
still thinking constantly, but you've got like a wealth of knowledge and history in there. But then as soon as you're being given a whole new range of stimulus and later braking times and all that stuff, it's like you
Yeah.
can't call on any of that again.
And you don't want to crash it, right? So I'm like,
it's an expensive
very
car.
sensitive to what was going on.
That brings us nicely on to talking about being out of your comfort zone. So a little section that we like to do is what we call Humbled in Hollywood, where there's a moment where you felt very out of your comfort zone, or if something has happened and it's really kind of not really put you in your place, but it's like a dose of reality.
So I'm not a 7-time world champion. I'm just a normal dude.
Yeah. When you're in that world, which seems from the outside super kind of glamorous and perfect, and like, are there any stories from your career that kind of hit that box?
One that comes to mind is probably my most embarrassing moment as a racer.
Perfect.
Um,
I'm ready.
so you guys have probably seen when you're getting in and out of a race car, you have to take the steering wheel off to have room to get in. And in qualifying I guess it was in Phoenix, Arizona some time ago, end of the season where Phoenix Falls, we're in the championship hunt where, there's all this pressure, everything's going on, qualifying matters. Phoenix was always the race before the final race of the year in Homestead Miami Speedway, and it was just this momentum and this calculated headspace we're in and all that's going on. Get in the car for qualifying and go out and make a run. And the first time by, I hear the lap time, and I know it's a pretty good time. Tell me like P3 on the radio. And so I'm thinking about a few little subtle changes I'm going to make to my entry into the next corner and working the brakes and pedals and all that kind of stuff. And I go in the turn and I climb back in the throttle, and evidently when I climb into the throttle, I kind of pull on the steering wheel. And so as I do that, I pull on the steering wheel and I pull the steering wheel off.
No. And what speed do you go at?
As fast as I possibly can.
You
mean,
literally pull the steering wheel.
150 miles an hour.
Is
on
there
this
not a
particular level?
latch, a release?
There is, but my dumbass
You've pulled
broke
it.
the number one rule, and I didn't check my steering wheel when I got in the
So
car.
it
and
hadn't
drove off
fully
the hill.
So you hadn't
clicked
clicked
into
it.
place.
Clicked into place.
And what happened then?
Well, I hit the brakes doing the logical
Yeah.
thing, and the way the vehicles are designed, when you hit the brakes, the steering wheel or the front tires go to the right.
Uh-huh.
So I hit the brakes, and so I'm pointed through the turn. Wheel comes off. I'm like, oh shit! And I kind of stab at
Trying to
putting
put
it back on the
again.
spline.
Not going to happen.
I hit the brakes, and the car turns a hard right head onto the wall. And so now I have the steering wheel, and I'm aimed right at the concrete wall, and I'm like, ah! And I throw the steering wheel away
Right.
from it.
Get into that
Wham!
brace position.
Just
Shit.
tattoo the wall.
Did you have enough time? Because I know that like racing drivers are like, you guys have got such quick reactions,
Yeah.
and in those instances,
You're
you
trained,
can
like, this
you
is
can
it.
like you mentioned it before with driving the Formula car, like all the information comes so quickly, and you can process it, generally speaking, really quickly. In that moment, have you got any time to think about anything, or you're just like, there's a fucking wall?
Yeah.
It, for whatever reason, it all slowed down. And when I pulled the wheel off, I'm like, you dumbass, you broke the number one rule. Then I hit the brakes. I'm like, that was a terrible idea. Now I have the steering wheel. I'm like, what do I do with this? I'm going to smash the wall. I don't
You
want it. So
literally-
I
yeah,
throw
yeah,
it
yeah.
at the windshield of the race car. Ba-boom! I hit the wall, and I come back down, and now I hit the inside wall. And my team's on the radio. They're like, oh, my God, what are you okay? What happened? Well, I threw the steering wheel, and that's where my push-to-talk button is. And it's on the far side of the car.
You can't even reply.
I can't even reply. So I'm
So
sitting
are they all
there
panicking at that point?
panicking.
Giving
Like
it the
he's
okay out the
unresponsive
window.
or
Like,
like,
And
I'm
the
good.
commentary is, oh my gosh, I think something broke on the car. And I know how my mechanics feel, and they never want anything to fail.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
break. And so I can hear the conversation about it being their fault. And there's a cable that hooks to the push-to-talk button that my steering wheel's connected to. So I catch my breath, and I start pulling this thing over, and I get the steering wheel back. And I respond, I'm like, I'm fine. Like, what happened? What broke? And I couldn't say it over the radio because I know TV's scanning and listening.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We have radio broadcasts that everybody's listening, and I've made the worst mistake ever. And again, the championship weekend is the following weekend, and what happened that weekend
Any doubt?
mattered.
Yeah.
And I just put us in a massive hole.
Yeah.
So I get on the radio, and I'm like, I'll talk to you when I get in the garage. So I pop out of the car, go to the infield care center. They run through the concussion protocol and all the stuff that they do. And I finally get back to my transporter, and all my team is standing there like, what happened? And they're outside the transporter. I don't even want a fan to hear what happened. And
Yeah.
I'm like, come inside the truck. And then I confessed my mistake.
Like, I fucked it.
So there was no video on you.
There wasn't an in-car camera inside, thankfully.
Okay. I was about to
Yes.
say I'm going to Google
The
that and
moment
try
of,
to
like,
find the moment where you
I
pulled
think
the
you
Just
can
video.
holding
find
the
it
steering
because
wheel
it
going,
finally
"Ah,
made
shit."
its way out. You
Yeah.
can find it. Yeah.
Once you confessed to doing it, then everyone was like, well, we got to find it then.
Little whispers found
Yeah.
their way out of like, holy shit, Jimmy.
We'll,
That is
we'll do some
cool.
Googling and see
Yeah.
what we can come
Not
up
to
with.
mention, there was a rule put in place because I was a part of a 4-car team, and there's somebody that's responsible to buckle the driver in. That individual from that day forward was always responsible to pull on the wheel in
Yeah,
case
to
the
make
driver
sure it was
forgot.
clicked in, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of that being a humbling in Hollywood moment for our show, you have actually had some Hollywood moments where you've
Yeah.
been
Humbling
you've done a
for
little
sure.
bit of cameo work, and
It's
you've done
awful.
a little
God,
bit
I
of
hope
voice
you don't
work.
have any voice. I'm made for voice work. I do a great
That
job
you
for
can
voice
do.
work.
As long as no one can see you. What was it like stepping into like the on-screen world? Like Chase did it as well in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He plays himself
Yeah.
in that. Are you? I haven't seen it, but you playing yourself in? Is it Herbie the film?
Yeah, in Herbie, I played
Which
myself.
is the talking car? Am I right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it was just a brief little flash. There have been a couple sitcoms that I've been on and some various things. But
People always want to see sports people in those
Yeah, they
shows.
do.
yeah.
It doesn't matter what the show is, what the film is. It's always exciting just to see someone. They're like, there he is.
Yeah.
I remember you also told me you were like on the advisory board for Talladega Nights.
I was.
That's
yeah.
so funny.
No
that
way.
was fun.
One of the best films
It,
ever.
it was really cool. I was able to get a little kind of time with the cast and crew, and it was just funny how you expect when you meet Will Ferrell that he's going to be this big comedian, and he was pretty serious and
I
focused.
suppose anyone, it's like you being so focused on your job. He's that good at what he does.
Yeah, that he has to
It
be
doesn't
on
happen
it.
by
Yeah.
accident, does it?
I mean, it caught me out so badly that I thought they were doing a serious film.
Really?
And then I saw the trailer for the film, and I was like, oh man, I got this
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
So he's just trying to learn as much from you,
Yeah.
and you have to do that in a serious manner to then turn it into what it is.
To
It's always a
comedy,
very funny
yeah.
film.
It's so good.
Did the drivers watch that film and enjoy it? Because it's kind of,
Loved
it's
it.
not really a piss take, is it? It's sort
It
of
is.
like
It's
a,
fantastic. They do
It's
a great
satire, isn't it?
piss
It's
take
like-
on it.
Yeah.
Great one.
and
Yeah.
no, everyone enjoys a bit of that. I think American
100%.
culture in general, I suppose, is quite a lot of that. You have those kind of roasts and things that
I
you don't
watch
get
it
over
at
here.
least once a year. It
Yeah.
is awesome, and they have like inside references that you only know if you're inside. I mean, it's really, really good.
Yeah,
So good.
awesome.
I'm
Have you
a
got
big
any?
fan.
It's a Tropic Thunder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people from the movie industry say that they're just all these little subtle nods in there to their
yeah, because
industry.
it's about making a film. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same thing.
and
Yeah,
I would
it's
say
great.
for the NASCAR space, it's similar.
Will you be doing any more of that stuff? Can we say that we're training you as an actor? Is what I
Let's
wanna
just
know.
go ahead and add it to the
That's
resume.
fine.
Something will pop up.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You're on IMDb, so that qualifies.
Yeah,
you.
it does.
If you're on there, you're an actor. Normally, we finish off the program with a look at what's coming next for the guest. Usually, that involves a
film
show
that's
that
happening,
hasn't been
yeah.
announced, or being able to say what film they're in, which they haven't been able to say before. But I guess that's less applicable for you. But you do have your team, and you're racing this season still.
Memorial Day weekend, we have our NASCAR marathon, which is a 600-mile race. It takes about 5 hours to finish.
That's long.
And so that I'll be in that event. That's another one of our kind of pillar events within the sport.
So you
And
chose the longest race to go back into.
I just like that stuff.
Yeah. This is back,
If you need
this
your,
goes back to your
And it's my
cycling.
700th start.
Oh,
Another
there you
one
go.
wow.
You've got to
I'm
do
old.
that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're available, and it'll be. We'll turn it into something. It'll be content. We'll be working. It'll be tax
Just-
deductible trips.
When
Great.
we wrap here, we need to book that. We need to make it happen, because if we don't, we'll all be busy and
That's
find
it.
something else
Well,
to
when
do.
do you leave? We'll get once this is done.
We've
we
got
can,
one
we can write
chance to
down.
watch a NASCAR race with someone racing in it that we know. This is
Now
our
that you
new
put it
time in
that
our
way,
entire
yeah.
life.
How much of a chance have I got of racing?
There's a go-kart track just down
Yeah,
the
yeah,
street.
we'll-
so
Yeah,
as
yeah,
long as
yeah.
you're not specific.
You'll
Jimmy-
see me
Jimmy
do
would
that,
just
and then you'll be
go
like, no, not even that, not even that. Oh man. Well, thank you very
that
much
was
for
great,
for
guys.
coming on.
Thank you, Jimmy.
It's been great fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
Woo!